Time this season is Jenson Button's day, and we're in the perfect spot. We're here in the Brawn GP hospitality. Martin Brundle's hot-footed it from what I imagine was a beautifully air-conditioned commentary box, was it?
I was thinking you guys need a new agent over here and get yourself some aircon, or one of those things that sprays water on you. They've got at the back of the grandstands.
I'm not sure that even Bernie walks around with a portable aircon unit following his every move. What did you make of the race today? Did you enjoy it up in the commentary box?
I did enjoy it. I mean, I think certain things happened that just took away the main race that was going on there, and Button obviously got the jump on both of those as cars on the wrong tyres held up the main chasing pack. But of course there were some key overtaking moves. We can have a look at them, no doubt. And generally, I mean, it was a strategic race, exciting in places, some really good performances. Of course, that's now 4 starts for Brawn as a team, 8 in total, and 8 car finishes. That's I didn't talk about that much in commentary, but that's amazing, isn't it? That they've had such incredible reliability on a car that was put together at the last moments.
For sure. Anything that you particularly want to talk about or for people to email in about? I know we want this as a nice open forum. Everyone will get in touch, f1@bbc.co.uk.
Anything. You can think of a question, we can think of an answer, I would have thought, about Formula One.
All right, let's go that way. Right, let's crack on with a bit of analysis. Let's start by having a look at the start, DC. Talk us...
Move, and Jenson understood where he had to be. We weren't unhappy sitting behind the Toyotas, but we were very unhappy sitting behind Lewis. And Jenson did a great move. Fantastic.
At the end of the Grand Prix, Martin and Jonathan were talking about the fact that this is a really nice one for you. This is a special victory. We all heard the lovely speech that Jenson delivered from the cockpit. How much does this win mean to you?
Well, it was a very tough win. I mean, we've had a good car setup-wise on the tyres this weekend, but we've had issues in qualifying. We're right on the limit with the temperatures of the engine. We had to manage that during the race. So, you know, those races you should win and you win, they're great. The ones that you're not sure about and you win, they're the best ones.
There was loads of expectation when we were in Australia. That was a race that many people said you should win. Coming into this, the noises that yourself and both your drivers were making was a bit more, well, we think we've been caught by a few people. We're not so sure anymore.
We have been caught. The gap is definitely narrow, but it's logical because we were just happy to get to Melbourne. There was nothing in the cupboard. There was nothing left. The car we had in Melbourne is the car we have now. Since we've launched the car and we started testing, obviously the factory's been working on improvements, and we have the first stage improvements in Barcelona. So we're a little bit behind, perhaps, but that's just a legacy of what we've had to put together. Also, I think our approach in practice has been to concentrate on the race setup. And of course, when we had a margin of performance at the beginning, that was fine. Now we don't have that margin, and people are getting past us in qualifying.
You mentioned developments for Barcelona. Many people were saying that the real trick for Brawn this season is not just starting with your noses in front, but keeping your noses in front. What updates can we expect at the next race?
Well, it's because of the new rules, the rate of progress is very rapid, and we've got a new aerodynamic package at Barcelona. We've got some weight saving. Some of the things we had to do on the car to get it to Melbourne are not as nice as we'd like. So there's some weight saving. Hopefully there's some improvements with the engine in terms of drivability. So it's in lots of areas, but I'm optimistic of a good step.
Okay, we've got 3 men here desperate with questions for you, DC.
Well, just trying to, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
And in trying to understand the compromises that you have to make for these warm conditions, did you have to run the car more open? Do you have to run bigger brake ducts? Is that what affects the aerodynamic performance of the car?
Well, because of the new regulations, there's not much you can do to open up the bodywork now. The apertures you can use are limited. And what was happening in qualifying, it was so hot it was difficult to run more than 1 lap at a time. And it was awkward for the drivers to get into a groove because they're only allowed to do 1 hot lap, and then they had to cool the car down and then do another hot lap. And that wasn't the way to use the tyres in qualifying. So we had quite a lot of compromise in qualifying. As I say, once we got past Lewis, then that 2 or 3 second gap behind the Toyotas was perfect because that kept the car cool. We turned it down a little bit, and then as the temperature started to drop, we could just ease the engine back up again.
Ross, why did you put Rubens on a different strategy then? Why the 3-stopper?
He's not been happy with the car this weekend. He's been a bit edgy. He's not been happy with the brakes. And really, it may not have been the best strategy, but it was the one that he was confident in, the one that he was positive about. And you know what it's like with a driver, he's got to be able to attack a strategy. So probably on reflection, it wasn't the best strategy. He had a specific problem with the car in qualifying, which lost him grid position. and that compounded his problem. But I think when we reflect on it, it may not have been the best strategy.
What is Ruben's frame of mind at the moment, having been outraced quite a few times this season by Jensen?
Very determined, I think. He had many years of someone who was pretty good racing in the next car. So I think actually the last race, China, he had a good chance of winning it. He was definitely on top of Jensen in China. Here, Jensen's got back on top, but I think that's how we'll see the season.
Ross, again, of course, congratulations on top of what we've already seen. The point I would like to make is how have you managed to make this car so reliable with so little testing? That's the key to this, because Martin has spoken about it earlier, and if you like, 4 finishes for both drivers in 4 races, so eight finishes. It's remarkable.
Well, you know, Eddie, it's sort of unlucky to talk about reliability. It's one of those things you try not to mention. But,
well, it's not a bad complaint, I have to tell you.
When I joined the team, I went to the first few tests and races, and my faults list was very small. And it wasn't what I was used to. I was used to going to races and tests with having a massive faults list, coming back and dealing with it. And it's just a very, very good engineering company. It's a great engineering company. If you look at their history over the last few years, they've always been solid and reliable. And there's a lot of very experienced, very good people, good systems, good traceability on all the components. Yeah, we've tuned it a bit, but it's as good as it gets. And just a huge amount of experience and very good systems, very good engineering.
Talking about that experience, Ross, you put rocking Ronnie Meadows up there on the podium. Why did you choose him this time? It could have been one of the engineers or whatever, but you know, you've got a great team around you, as you say.
Yeah, I mean, Ron's been a stalwart of the team for many years. He's stuck with it when it's been difficult, and now he's enjoying racing again. He deserved it, and I spent many years at Benetton, if you remember. I never saw the podium in all those wins we had, and it stuck with me, and I give the boys a chance whenever I can.
Flav was sort of domineering that a bit, wasn't he, if I seem to remember?
Yeah, I don't want to go there. That's dangerous territory.
Ross, me again, and I'm coming back to my commercial hat on, and I'm trying to figure out, during the race, Martin talked about Braun being on the rear wing, and I'm figuring out what mechanisms are you using to break into the Branson vaults to nick all his money and put Virgin on your car, because it's about time he shaped up, isn't it?
Well, he's really enthusiastic and enjoying it. And
but is he paying you the money?
He's paying us some money at the moment, but the key for us is to build relationships that go forward, several years. There's no point in having a quick slam bang amount of money. And the sort of companies you need that want to make that commitment are not going to just come in and walk in overnight. You've got to develop the relationships, and with Richard, we're developing a relationship, and he's getting very enthusiastic about racing, and that helps. And he's looking at how branding the car can work with his companies, and it's got such a wide base. It could work very well, so I'm optimistic.
Jensen said this is your championship to lose now. He didn't, but it is, isn't it?
He might have done.
I would have kicked him if he had. Its rate of progress will be very rapid. You've seen it already, and we need to progress rapidly, race by race. It's always race by race, and we'll see what happens. But the way Jensen's driving, then that part is taken care of. It's up to us to produce the performance in the car, do the pit stops, do the strategies, and make sure the car's reliable. I've got no doubts about his ability to win.
4 races in, what do you see the strengths of your car and the weaknesses relative to your main competitors, which look like Toyota and Red Bull?
The car's very good on its tyres, and that hurt us a bit in a couple of races where tyre temperature was difficult to achieve. It's very good, very consistent on its tyres. It's easy to find a balance. It responds well to all the changes, and it's got a healthy amount of downforce. The engine is terrific. I mean, it's a super engine, and I think it's the best engine in Formula One. So we've not done a bad job on the chassis. You put that with the best engine, that's what you get.
Fantastic. Listen, Ross, you've proved you don't have to be on pole to win a race in Formula One this season. You've also shown us you've got reliability and you've got speed. Enjoy a few days off, no doubt, back home before we all get going in Europe. But we can't let you come and go without a quick mention of Ferrari. We're going to talk Ferrari amongst ourselves in a few moments. How have you been feeling watching their struggles this season?
Well, I've got a lot of personal friends at Ferrari, and it obviously hurts to see them in the situation they've been in. And they are all the same people that won a championship last year. Yeah, they scored some points today, which was great. And I think now they've got that behind them, they can start to work on taking the car forward. But it's clear that the efforts they made last year to win the championship just took it out of them. We were quite happy to abandon last year and focus on this year. They couldn't do that, and they're paying the price as McLaren did. So I expect some big steps from them in the next few races.
Are you surprised we've had no big steps thus far?
Well, it's as I say, when you've had such a hard championship, there's not a lot of stuff in the cupboard.
McLaren have managed it though. They've brought updates, and that's helped the car.
I don't know. I mean, obviously the area that McLaren will be able to develop is the diffuser, and I'm not sure the layout of the Ferrari if they can achieve that. I mean, they've got the capacity, they've got the people, so I assume there's some difficulty in achieving it.
Yeah, well, life moves on, Formula One moves on, and it's all about Brawn now. So thank you very much for joining us. I'm sure you've got people to drink rosewater with and celebrate with, so we'll allow Ross to slink off back to the nice, cool hospitality area. Interesting to get his thoughts, Martin, particularly about Ferrari. He seems to sort of be leaning on the side of last season. They struggled right to the very end to make sure their car was going to win the title. They won that. They got the Constructors' Championship, and now they've got the hangover this year. Mike Gascoigne, when he joined us last week, said he doesn't buy that. You've got teams like Force India. They've got developments. They can move the car on.
It's exactly what I've said in my Sunday Times column today, funny enough, is that, they've got enough resource, as McLaren have, to build a new car while they're still out there racing, and that's what the big teams do. That's why they spend $300 million a year going racing for two cars, 17 races. I think it's more because they focused on the KERS systems. They thought that was the big ticket, and other smaller teams that didn't have the budget or the time or the personnel to do
the story. They're having reliability issues with their KERS system, and we'll obviously find out from their press office exactly what the issue was for him. But once again, a really messy race for him, and on the positive side, of course, we've seen Kimi Räikkönen get his first points of the year. I dare say he probably would have pushed a bit harder if there was actual champagne on the podium rather than rosewater. He's not a man known to, want to celebrate with some fizzy water at the end of it.
OK, well, there were points for Kimi Räikkönen. No points, though, for Felipe Massa at this race today. However, we can now hear from him. Here are his thoughts, followed by Luca Di Montezemolo.
Felipe, looked pretty hard work out there. Just tell us about the incident at the beginning.
Well, I had a big problem during the whole race. My telemetry was not working for the guys in the box. And my KERS as well was not working very well. So I lost the KERS for the start, so I didn't do a great start. And I had a big sandwich in the first corner between Rubens and Kimi. And I lost my front wing there. But I couldn't see if I just had a big difference on the car behave. So I thought the front wing was broken, it really was. So I came in, I changed the front wing, so my race was pretty damaged coming into the pits after 2 laps. And then I was a lot of behind the traffic, so I couldn't do so much, to be honest.
Well, Luca, at least some points at last. Your feelings on the race for Ferrari?
Yes, what can I say? In this situation, it's better than nothing. It's good for the team. It's good for the morale of the team. I think it's important, and I hope that now we have the team has 15 days before the next race. They finally can work very hard to solve these problems, basically born in such unclear rule situation, unfortunately, and this is something not good.
But you're only getting small points still. Enough for a championship?
We don't know. Who never knows? We have been very... we have won the 3 titles on 4 in the last 2 years, but we will do the best. I think that this is the best medicine for the team in this moment. No more, no less.
Well, just in case you noticed the break up there on the pitches, we are having problems. All the TV crews are having problems here in the paddock, but I hope that you do bear with us. Martin, very interesting to hear a guy that's been around motorsport a long time sounding a little bit burnt there.
Well, 2 very important things that he said is this is good medicine for the team, so maybe he thinks it's sharpening them up, but unclear rules. I mean, he's made it very clear himself that he didn't like the way that the rules were introduced, and I think he feels the Kurz was forced through. But the bottom line is they lost out on some nice detail that, for example, particularly Braun and Toyota have. They got it wrong. They missed a trick, and the rules were clear enough for some of the teams, obviously.
And Ferrari need to start developing this car and developing it quickly, Eddie.
Well, I'd hate Luca to come out sour grapes, because that's what it sounded like, what Martin just spoke about. And they do need, and during an earlier broadcast we talked about the change of management there. Ross, who has been with us, he was a cornerstone of Ferrari in the past, as indeed when Michael Schumacher was there, Rory Byrne and Jean Todt. They're no longer there, so it is a rebuilding year in my view. And he didn't say it there, Luca, but there's no chance of Ferrari winning the championship this year, in my view.
Masses of frustration for Ferrari all season long, and frustration for Timo Glock today. We'll have a look at Timo on board at DC, because he started so well and then just fell away. We spoke about this with Martin. Where would you lay his troubles down after a good start?
Well, sit here on board with them, ready to launch from the grid on the dusty side, but it just obviously got all the balancing acts of clutch position, throttle position, everything absolutely spot on to get the jump on Jarno, and then a very clean run through this first corner. But what's not clear is what happened in the middle of that race. And unfortunately, we're going to have to wait until the actual releases come out to understand what his particular problem was. But he fell away massively in the middle of the race, and once again, I don't think that Toyota have been able to back up reasonable qualifying pace, and in this case, obviously locking out the front row with as good a race performance.
Yeah, we spoke about sort of promises that they haven't delivered on so far this season, Eddie, and many people thought today Toyota would finally deliver, not just on a promise, but perhaps on their first ever race win. Wasn't to be.
I did think they could win this race. I did have a concern about the Braun and the heating, or the overheating of the car, and I thought this was going to be Toyota's car. It clearly wasn't the case. Glock must have had a problem. He was poor, and you saw the dejection of Trulli on the podium ceremony there. It says it all. OK,
well, maybe we can shed some light on Timo Glock's problems. Let's hear his thoughts.
Timo, you look pretty frustrated. Does that sum up how you're feeling?
Yeah, difficult. I mean, promising start, I would say. Won the start against Jarno from the dirty side. Was quite surprised, and could open a slightly gap to Jarno in the first stint. And then we were the first guys to pit, which was already critical. But when I went out on prime tires, the first 2 laps I just lost, I don't know how many seconds. And even in the first 10 to 15 laps, no chance, and I was nearly 6 tenths to 1 second slower than Jarno, and after 20 laps the race was over for the podium.
Where did it go wrong then?
After the first pit stop.
Why was that? Just strategy wrong?
No, just the tires didn't work, and that's it. Prime tires just I didn't get any. For me, it felt like it didn't get any heat in, and I just lost everything in the second stint.
Well, we've seen the headline tyres and drivers not liking them all season long, Martin. Seems that was the problem again today?
I don't fully understand that, though, because as soon as the pit stop phase was over, he was immediately had fallen quite a long way back. So whether he just had a scruffy couple of laps as well on top of that. But I think, and DC will know more about this than me, but the drivers are not happy that they're forced to use 2 different types of tyre that are spread by 2 compounds, because they feel that some circuits, it's not really happened here today, that they look a little bit silly when they're out on tyres that are, plainly not working. And I don't think they like that too much, do they, DC?
No, indeed. I think that that was a strategic decision by the FIA in conjunction with Bridgestone to try and excite some more racing. When the tyres are very close and there's not much between them, then you don't get a big variation during the course of the race. So what we're actually seeing here, when you have the tyres with such a big gap between the compounds and the working temperature of the tyre, is this sort of performance where you can be going great guns, you're happy with your balance, and you're sailing off into the distance. And as we've seen at a number of the races this year, you put the less favourable tyre on, and you can start to look pretty silly relative to your competitors. So I'm kind of sitting on the fence on this one right now, because as a driver, I wouldn't have liked that. But as a pundit and watching the races, it does play into the strategy of the teams, and they have to make a real tough decision in conjunction with the drivers and how to best use those tyres through the race. I feel for Bridgestone because it actually looks like there's a bit of negativity about the tyres, where in actual fact they're producing a incredibly fast tyre and a safe tyre, and they should be, I congratulated them in Melbourne already on their World Championship, because with no competition, they've clearly won this one already.
But you have these wonderful cars, Eddie, and people spend so many millions of pounds and so many manpower hours working on these things, and then you go and put tyres on that don't work with the car. I heard someone talking in the paddock a couple of days ago. He said it's like putting Wellington boots on a racing horse. It just doesn't help the spectacle.
Well, that analogy I can't quite live with. That's not true. These tyres, when we talk about big differences between the tyres, if you look at the timing, it may be quite a big difference to us, but to the normal person in the grandstand, it's not that much. I support what David has said. Bridgestone are doing a remarkable job. They've no tyre failures, and you proper regular laps, one in after another. And I think, for me, particularly if the fueling is going away, it is a mechanism to have excitement there. You do need two different sets of tyres, and you have to use them the weekend. We've just got to get used to it. I think it's exciting. I agree with David. As a punter, you need to have variation and you need excitement.
OK, well, the rules are there for the tyres, and the rules are there for qualifying as well, Martin. And if a driver holds you up in quali, they get the punishment, but no one's there to help you out. A quick mention on Mark Webber. Do the rules need to change so that if your qualifying gets compromised, you're given another chance, you're given another run?
But then how good would that lap have been of Webber's anyway? Where would it have put him? In the top 15?
Yeah,
who knows? And you've got 7 and 8 minutes between the two sets.
Clearly, Suttel made a big mistake and cost him his qualifying time. The point, just in this particular, he is dicing all over the place. Now you see why some drivers opt to start from the pit lane. They have a free run at it, and they can keep away from all the mischief and all of the flying parts. You saw particles of cars flying all over the place. You certainly don't want that in your visor, and you don't want that. It's just disconcerting, the whole thing about how it happens. So the logic sometimes when we say how upset we are when people start from the pit lane, that's the reason why they do opt for that.
I tell you what, there was a lovely sweet move around the outside of turn 9 into 10. Did you catch that one? Mark Webber should get that onboard lap of his first lap of the Grand Prix and treasure that. It was a cracker.
Yeah, well, Mark eventually rolled in 11th place. No points for him, but certainly points for Sebastian Vettel today. I'm delighted to say Christian Horner once again joins us. No champagne-soaked hair for you this week, but some more points for the team. How do you feel after the way this weekend has rolled out? Differing fortunes.
Yeah, no, it was a very strong second place, but can't help but feel slightly disappointed with second. I think our race was dictated at turn 2 when both Lewis and Jensen opportunistically managed to get ahead of Sebastian, but our strategy worked well for us, and we had the pace today. Unfortunately, we just gave away too much time behind. Have a look at the prime on him. So we took a gamble with him, put him on the prime, as we'd seen Toyota do that as well. And that obviously gave us a lot of information. Sebastian was very happy on the option, and he did a fantastic job in saving those tyres behind when he was stuck in traffic.
Christian, if I may, I wasn't in China, and I want to be the first to say well done, because finishing first and second as a team boss is quite a remarkable thing. Leaving that to one side, I'm really intrigued about Vettel. I'm so impressed with him, because we've seen what he did in Monza last year. We saw what he did already this year, but to win or to be second in this particular race in the dry must now put a lot of little doubts or little question marks, puts to one side, and you can move forward from here.
I think he's, at such a young age, showing so much potential, and he's got a very calm head on his shoulders. We saw that last weekend in China, again today when he was required to push. He absolutely extracted the most out of the car, and he's got a very bright future ahead of him. And but he's got a good group of guys around him, and we're really enjoying working with him.
Christian, I think that if Sebastian hadn't been held up behind Lewis Hamilton in the early part of the Grand Prix, he might have had a pretty serious run at a victory with Button. Do you think you could have won it?
Well, we think we could have taken the fight to Jensen. We were a few laps longer in each of the stints, so I think he had the pace of the Brawn today, and unfortunately the time that we gave away behind Lewis, and then when Trulli appeared just ahead of us on the prime as well, that finished our race for us. But I think on a clear run with an overlap that we had on the stop laps, we could have we could or may have been able to beat them today.
We'll continue this chat in just a second, but let's hear from your second place driver, Sebastian Vettel. Here are his thoughts.
It seems that you look more comfortable winning because you look a little bit frustrated coming second. Is that fair?
Not frustrated, but in the end, all that matters is to win the race. Obviously, that was our target today. We did not succeed, as you can see. So, yeah, still happy with the result. I think first lap was not according to our wish, but it was extremely difficult from then. First 2 stints we were stuck in traffic, and yeah, that probably was our day. So best we could do from there was P2, which we did. So last stint wasn't easy because I had the Toyota Yano in the back and he was on the soft tire. I was on the hard for the last stint. He was pushing hard. So no room for mistakes, but we survived and we managed to stay ahead. And
just tell us about the start.
well, I think we had a good start, a normal start. And when I first looked in the mirrors, Lewis was far behind and I had basically no concerns. So I was looking to the front, to the 2 Toyotas, and then maybe I should have gone more to the right to close the door on the inside, and Lewis probably pressed his special button, and yeah, all of a sudden he was alongside me on the inside. I couldn't run on the outside because there was Jensen so caught in the middle. I had to give way to both of them, and unfortunately after turn 2 then only P5.
Well, as usual, an affable, smiley, friendly Sebastian Vettel. And people will often see these kind of interviews and think, oh, what a nice guy. But there's a real inner steel about this driver as well, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely, and he looks cooler than I do. I mean, he's just done an hour and a half in a Grand Prix car, so
it's pretty stressful on the pit wall as well.
Absolutely, so, but no, he's a very cool customer, and he's got so much capacity when he's driving the car. Today he did a great job looking after his tyres. He managed to save 3 laps of fuel, and David knows how difficult that is to do, especially when you've got Lewis right up behind you and your racing cars around you. But he's very much a thinking driver, but can also extract the absolute maximum out of the car.
So now we head to Europe. I'm sure Adrian Newey, who's back home redesigning the rear end of your car, has been keeping you regularly updated. How positive are you about the changes that are on their way for Red Bull? Because you have been the team to beat in terms of the non-double diffuser teams.
I think that we've got some upgrades coming for Barcelona and then further ones for Monte Carlo, and I think this year's going to be about getting iterations on your car at every opportunity, at every weekend that we can, and we know the double diffuser is worth a significant amount of performance, and we've still got that to look forward to. I
enjoyed seeing Adrian Newey saying the intelligent teams are being rewarded this season. He would say that, as it's his team that's being rewarded, hey?
No, absolutely. Hopefully his lawn has recovered after he did the donuts on it last weekend after the race result. So hopefully the grass has started growing again.
Well, that's a side to Adrian Newey that we've not seen before. Did you have a camera filming that?
No.
It should have been a nice Red Bull package, eh? I'd like to see that with the Red Bull car. Listen, thank you very much. Congratulations, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you very much.
All right. Christian, thank you very much, and go off and calm yourself down. Let's move on and have another chat about Jarno Trulli. Let's take a look at Jarno Trulli's start first of all. And you were surprised that he was taken at the top here. Did he have a bad start, DC?
Well, clearly.
Jarno, you seem a little bit downcast. Where was the race lost, I suppose, in your eyes? Because you don't seem too happy with where you finished.
I'm not saying I've lost the race. I just expected a bit more. And, to win, you need to get everything right. And today didn't go perfectly right. I had several troubles. I had to fight very hard, and nevertheless, it's a podium, but we need to go through the data and everything with the engineers in order to get better and get a better car.
What did you learn from this weekend that you can take forward to Barcelona?
I've learned that we can fight for the win.
Okay, let's just have a look through a few emails. I can see something happening behind my shoulder there. I think it's just a few of the Brawn guys standing around with their trophy waiting for a photograph. Lovely, and hopefully as soon as he's finished over there we might be able to collar Jensen Button and have a quick word with him. But let's run through a few emails because they've been coming in their droves. Adrian's emailed in about another hot topic actually in Formula One this week, the future of the British Grand Prix. He wants to know how damaging, Martin, for no 2010 British Grand Prix if that happens.
I think there's a serious chance we'll have no British Grand Prix in 2010. It's a disaster in every respect for British motorsport, for Formula One, and they're a core Grand Prix in the championship, and the French Grand Prix we've lost already, but Monaco and Monza, places like that, and surely Silverstone, having been there since the very beginning, the British Grand Prix at least back in 1950, is one of them. But I can't see how it's going to happen now unless somebody comes marching in and saves the Donington project, and or they just come up with some more money and keep it on route. But no smoke without fire. It can't be going well there.
Interestingly, you know Bernie well, and you think there's going to be a British Grand Prix, Silverstone or Donington. You think there'll be one, Eddie, yeah?
Well, I'm a bit more optimistic because yesterday, you know, when Bernie says something that he's certainly definitely not doing it, I'm of the opinion that that's the curved ball that we've seen so many times, and that gives me encouragement that it will happen. I've made the point that there's two people on my left and right here, coupled with Damon Hill, that actually should be sitting in it. What Bernie can't cope with is what I talked about yesterday, are the Blazer Brigade at Silverstone. He just doesn't like them and it doesn't work for him. And I think if Donington cannot run a race, then the people at Silverstone need to make a concerted effort to make that happen.
Yeah, but it's not a Blazer Brigade at Silverstone. I was on the board for 9 years, and I don't wear blazers. You know,
That's how he calls it.
I know he does, but
and
he's wrong.
He's the man you have to get around here.
He wears a red blazer today.
We haven't
mate
seen
of mine, Bernie, but he's wrong on that. And it's just a mantra he's got of sticking the boot into Silverstone and the British Grand Prix, settling old scores.
Yeah.
And we just need to move on from that, otherwise. We're binning a brilliant Grand Prix.
Well, Bernie was the one wearing a blazer on the pit lane earlier on. Let's hear from Bernie Ecclestone. We caught up with him yesterday. Here are his thoughts.
Well, Bernie, what's a sort of general reaction from your side about some of the news we've heard coming out of Donington Park this week?
Well, I don't have any reaction. It's not good news, obviously. But, you know, I've been campaigning for a long time now about the government perhaps supporting this a little bit like they're supporting the Olympics. Like most countries now support Formula One.
So do you believe that's what Donington Park ventures need? They need government support now?
But they need some finance. I don't think they care where it comes from, to be honest with you.
Where might that come from, would you imagine?
I have no idea. Hopefully it's going to be supported by the government.
And that's local government or national? I mean, we've seen the national put so much money, as you said, into the Olympics.
Yeah, be better. That's what should happen.
Because is the thought from your side about how much motorsport industry in Britain gives to the economy, and so maybe the economy should put some back?
It's about time. Motorsport's been supporting the economy for an awful long time.
So do you think that's the only solution, Bernie, government money? What happens if that doesn't come about?
We won't have a British Grand Prix for sure.
Well, it couldn't be more serious than that. We won't have a British Grand Prix for sure. And again, Bernie talking about getting the British government involved in funding this. And we come to places like Bahrain and Abu Dhabi where there is huge investment. Do you ever see the British government helping out with the Formula One race, Eddie?
I don't think they can. I don't think they will. There is an embarrassment going back several years now about the donation. And that looms large in Bernie's mind. And just to come back a little bit to Martin's situation, I'm on one of the BRDC members there, and I desperately want to see a race retained at Silverstone or Donington or somewhere. But what the Blazer Brigade I was talking about is Bernie believes that the people at Silverstone are more interested in where they park for the Grand Prix than actually putting it on. I'm not saying that. I don't support that, but that's what he thinks. So how the government, I don't know, are going to be able to come to the party. They did in terms of getting roads in there and stuff like that, and they've been instrumental in that, but they need to find a new solution.
OK, that's all stuff for the future, but you can probably hear the round of applause behind us. That's because Jenson Button has made his way away from all the media guys and through to the people that matter most to him, the team who is sitting here in the paddock. They've got the trophy in front of them, they've got their brawn shirts on, smiles all over their faces. You can see Nicola there desperately trying to drag him through the paddock to get him to the team. And it's only when you see scenes like this, Martin, that it reminds you just how important Formula One is to all the guys that work here. I remember going to watch Lewis Hamilton arrive back at the factory after winning the title last year. And the delight on their faces. You wouldn't have believed that they worked in F1. You'd think they're fans.
Yeah, well, there are hundreds of people in all of these teams, and they're competitive. They go in, they go the extra mile because they want to win races. And, maybe 70 or 80 of them are here at the circuit, but there's hundreds more back at Brackley too. And, it's a well-deserved victory. And the team spirit that's building there is getting quite powerful.
Yeah, some great scenes here that we're just seeing over our shoulder. Jenson has actually joined his group now, so the VT that we're seeing there is a little bit delayed. Hugs all round, and you can hear the cheers. Very happy. It's a small team, isn't it? I think most of the team there looks like it's a catering staff.
Absolutely, yeah. These are shots of Jenson Button walking through the paddock. I think we should probably cut live to what's actually happening now, because you can hear what's happening behind us. There you go. That's what's happening live. The trophy's there. Ross Brawn is dragging... Oh, here comes Richard Branson. Look at that. It wouldn't be a celebration for Brawn without Richard poking in there and getting involved in the photo opportunity. What's it like, DC, when you win a race, you come out here and your team are there and they cheer you in?
It's a great feeling because you have a real bond with these guys. Your life is really in their hands. They bolt this car together, and and they put a lot of effort into, a lot of passion into going racing. And I think it's a great aspect of motorsport, is that team element. And you know, they walk away from the car when you're sitting on the grid, and you carry the hopes not only of the race team here at the track, but you know, 500-600 people back at base, and all of the various partners and sponsors and fans of the team. So, you know, as a driver, you have a lot of pressure, but it's tremendously rewarding when you can see the smile on your team's faces.
Well, we can see the relationship there between driver and father. And Eddie, one of the things that you really instilled in Jordan when you were there was that sort of family atmosphere, that family relationship, and it really makes a difference when you're out at these races, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's been acted out here. The person I wanted to see in all of this, there they are. Look, Rubens embracing Jensen. That's the key thing, because every driver wants to beat their teammate, but they are absolutely bonded as a team, and Ross Brawn has made that happen. So you can see why Martin has talked about it. This is a team effort. It's very strong, and I don't think they can be beaten now at this stage of the season.
Ross talks about Rubens being determined. Do you think seeing Jensen beat him week in, week out will make him disconsolate eventually?
Rubens' chin can drop from time to time, but, you know, he's not been around this long for no good reason. And he's quite capable of outperforming Jensen in qualifying or in the race on his day. But he's a driver that needs the car really fully, exactly as he likes it. And I think, you know, I was his teammate at Jordan, and we know him quite well. You raced against him in Formula 3, David. When we've known Rubens a long time, we know his strengths and we know his weaknesses. But right now, Button's so hooked up that, you know, Rubens is going to have to find a new answer.
OK, well, he's continuing having photos taken. While he does that, let me read out a quick email here, which is interesting, actually. Anthony's contacted us here at the forum to remind us that Bernie, of course, wanted medals to be awarded for these guys, and if you won more gold medals than anybody else, you'd be crowned champion. Well, he says, does that mean that Jensen Button would be pretty much champion-elect after 4 races? Certainly would start to look that way pretty quickly, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but you know, this is only the 4th race, so just coming back to what Martin was saying there as well regarding Rubens, then there's a long way to go in this Grand Prix season, and you know, frankly, whether we spend time talking about the medal system or not, it's not part of Formula One. You know, what we race with at the moment is the point scoring system, and the champion will be decided on that. And 4 races in, if they call time on that championship, then we have a new world champion, and he's called Jensen Button. OK, well, Jensen Button may well be crowned world champion, but he's not going to be joining us here on the forum, unfortunately. He's disappeared off somewhere, but we did get a chat with him a bit earlier on, so we can hear from Lee chatting to Jensen now.
Jensen, congratulations. Is this the most pleasing victory that you've had?
It is. The first time I've seen the checkered flag without a safety car or red lights in front of me. So no, it was a great race, and it was a very tough race, because tough weekend, because we haven't had the pace that we've expected. You know, what we've had over the first 3 races. So qualifying was really difficult, and I was going for pole, and we were 4/10 off pole. So to get the win here is just amazing. And going back into Europe with 31 points on the board, a 12-point lead, I think it is. Yeah, it's I couldn't wish for any more at the moment.
And also it comes down to everything, the way the teamwork, reliability, and you know, we've just been hearing from Ross, and he was just saying what it means to him to have all this success. From your point of view, what do you say to him?
Well, he's done an amazing job, and you know, this winter for him has been very difficult, but I've believed in him, and as everyone else has in the team, and stuck by him. So, you know, he is a proper leader, and you know, obviously you've been hanging around our team lately, and it does feel like a very tight unit, and that's what you need in Formula One, and I've never had that before. So it's a great atmosphere there, and I think we proved it today. You know, as one team, we did a great job. You know, this point of the season is very tough for us, because everything is getting tired. You know, every part of the car is getting tired. You know, some bits aren't working. You know, the FFA, and for example. So it's been really difficult. So getting back to Europe is great for us. We can make it, you know, refresh everything, and come to Barcelona hopefully with a quicker car than we have now.
And it's not just his leadership; it's what you do in the car, and that was a great move, passing Lewis.
Thank you. No, it was a first lap that I'm very happy with, and you know, the start was difficult. I had a lot of clutch slip, and I was lucky to get away as cleanly as I did. And then into turn 1, I knew I had to get past Vettel. I'd looked after my tyres on the way to the grid very well, and I got him around the outside, which is great. And then I tried a couple of times to get past Lewis. The last corner, he braked a little bit late on the inside, and I got alongside him on the straight, but I knew as soon as we crossed the start and finish line, he was going to push that special button. and pull away, and he did. So I jumped back in behind and was able to get him into turn one. So a great lap, and you know, it was an amazing race for us. And it, you know, even when you're out in the lead by 10 seconds, it's still not easy. You know, it's so easy to make a mistake, and the traffic was pretty difficult out there. You know, the cars that are normally at the front weren't at the front, and we were lapping them, and now they know how it feels. You know, it's a difficult place to be, lapping and being lapped. So, you know, I'm very proud of the whole team. They've done a great job so far this season, and it's only going to get better, I feel.
Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Well, he has enjoyed it so far, hasn't he? The celebrations behind us have disappeared, but Jenson, I'm sure, will celebrate late into the night. And it's interesting to hear even Jenson, who's winning races, talk about the fact that he wants the car to be updated and wants the car to be a bit renewed. All the drivers are demanding updates in Formula One at the moment, and we'll see some of those in a couple of weeks' time in Spain. But Jenson wasn't the only British driver to pick up points here today. Lewis Hamilton finished in a very creditable position. And before the race, I asked him about how he senses his form has been so far this season. Once again, today was a points finish. Here are his thoughts.
You know what, I stayed out of trouble. I pushed as hard as I could along the way with a car that wasn't ready to be pushed that much. And of course, I was fortunate in some areas of the race where people crashed, but that's not my problem. You know, I came through clean, I stayed out of trouble, and we got some great results. And in the last race, again, and let's not mention just my performance, but the team. You know, look at Ferrari, they've had a better car, but they've made a lot more mistakes. My team has done a fantastic job in strategy, pit stops. There's been no real error there, you know, so I think we've really, considering the performance we have, and it's been pretty bad, we've just knuckled down and made sure that all the other areas are covered, and we've done a solid job, and I'm very, very proud of them. So, and I think people don't realize that I think in the last 3 years I've scored more points than anyone. So I think that speaks for itself.
How tough is the car to drive this year? I mean, we saw you in the wet in China. I think you described it as your worst ever wet race, didn't you?
Yeah, I love racing in the wet, and simply because ever since I was in karting, I always felt that I was able to get to a different level than others, get to more on the edge and find more from the car and extract more from it. So and you've seen some wet races where I've, you know, Silverstone, I won by 1 minute and 8 seconds, and that was no coincidence. We had a good car, but I did the job. And but this year, in the last race, I felt that again, the possibility to get a bit higher than I was possibly going to be able to get before. I was up to 5th place, and then the car just snapped away from me. And it's one of the problems we do have with our car, which the actual flow of the air does stop it every now and then.
That's not good.
No, but I think one of the biggest problems with our car is the I don't know if you know, three-wheeling. So we go into turn 1 and 2, turn 2 of China, and the front wheel lifts up. And it's actually the rear suspension, but it's a lot of different things. We're not really sure exactly why it's doing it. But if you can imagine driving around the corner with one wheel, it's definitely a lot slower than with 2 wheels on the ground. But we're working day and night to improve it. Our downforce is lower than the Red Bulls and the Brawns, but we're working in the wind tunnel trying to improve that. And it's a lengthy process, but we've taken huge steps. In Barcelona and tests before the first race, we were 2.5, 3 seconds down, you know, of everyone. So to be in Q3 in China in a 3rd race and only be, you know, between 4 and 7 tenths off the top guys, I think was very impressive. So again, it's not just my doing, it's the team's. We've worked very, very hard to get in that spot, and we're going to continue working hard. And when we start winning again, which we will,
this season,
I have no doubt we're going to win again. It may be in 2 races, 3 races, 4 races, but we will win again. And I think it will be well deserved, because the guys are flat out, and we're all flat out.
And finally, have you given up hope of the world title this season? 17 points behind Brawn at the moment. Can you claw that back? Can you get back there?
You know what? I've never ever given up in a race, even if I'm dead last. I don't know why. It's just a crazy thing. I have a feeling that I can still win. You never know when the guys in front are going to fall off. You know, everyone could fall off. So you should never give up till it's over. And so I'll keep pushing to the last race. But clearly, the others are doing a great job. They're a bit ahead, but we still have 4 points. That's not the end of the world.
Enjoy those 4 points.
I will do, but we will get more. Don't worry.
And they have got more. They've got more today. It's no longer a 17-point gap for Lewis Hamilton. It's a 22-point gap from him to Jenson Button. But it was still 4th place in a points finish for Lewis Hamilton. Look at this. We've been talking for so long today that dusk has arrived and the lights have been turned on the trees behind us. But there is one last thing to talk about before we go. The KERS system. David, you were berating it throughout the race. We'll talk about the merits of it in just a few seconds. But we have had an exclusive look at the McLaren KERS. And of all of them, Martin, this KERS system is sort of the KERS system to have, it seems.
Yeah, and what amazed me, and that's the first time we've been allowed to look at the goodies that consist of this Mercedes-Benz KERS. What a tiny little battery pack. It's much smaller than I expected it to be. We'll have a look in a moment. And we only saw it on race day. I'd like to have had a look at it 2 or 3 days ago and package up something a bit nicer piece than this, but we'll look in it again. But this one is, I think it makes an interesting race personally, because there are different phases of the lap depending on which car we're on board with. Does it have KERS? 8 out of the 20 did today, and frankly, I don't mind. I don't mind it. I don't want them to go to a single KERS system that one manufacturer gives to all the teams, because they'll just end up pressing it at the same time. It'll be a 30-kilo passenger, as far as I'm concerned, at that point. But otherwise, you know, we every so often you see cars close together. You know, one of them's going to punch in a bit of extra power. The other's going to have to fight him harder under braking. You know, I like Grand Prix racing. I like exciting Grand Prix racing, and I think the KERS has given us a bit of that this year.
OK, let's take a look at McLaren's system.
We're in the heart of the McLaren Mercedes-Benz garage, a unique opportunity for the first time this year to really have a look at a KERS system. Norbert Haug, head of Mercedes-Benz Motorsport. Norbert, tell us about the parts of this KERS system here. You seem to have the best one on the racetrack at the moment.
Well, it's a pleasure to hear that. I mean, I do not know that. I have to admit I did not see the system from the other ones, but our guys in Brixworth and Stuttgart did a fantastic job, I have to say. They worked together with the guys from the series development, and without that, it would not have been possible. It was only 2 years we had to develop it, and I think we are on a good level in the meantime.
What kind of cost has it been to create a KERS system for a Formula One car?
It's quite a few millions, but of course, you know, we are leaders in the hybrid technology, and things we learn here we can adapt for our ideas for the street car. You certainly will not have a system like that one-to-one, but the way that leads you to such solutions is a intense and very, very quick learning process, and I'm sure Michael can tell you some details about it, how innovative we have been and how we were connected together with our company in Troy and US with Neil Armstrong and the guys, Dr. Weber, Dr. Mikulic. We all work together. And I think, you know, if you are technically driven, it is amazing what you can achieve. And if you push the button and you get 80 horsepower in addition, that's just fantastic.
Now, I heard you here at the Bahrain Grand Prix saying you think there should be a common KERS system across all of the teams, and that's something you strongly believe in.
Well, my point is, you know, if the Braun team, the Braun Mercedes would have won with a KERS system, it would be much more in the focus now. And of course, no KERS car has won. And I think it is a very, very good initiative. It is a very good idea. But if we keep developing that, and I mean, I would like to do it, but then we need to invest money. And a standard KERS, which is in discussion, which of course the FIA takes the discussion at the end of the day, but I think we should sit down, have something like that, and then standardize it or whatever, or limit the development, because if you keep going, that costs a lot of money.
Let's talk to Michael Wilson now, head of engine development at Mercedes-Benz. Michael, take us through this KERS system, exactly what it is, in as short a time as you can.
This is our motor generator, so this is what generates, harvests the power under braking and deploys it at the push of a button. This is the control unit, and this is our battery pack.
So the battery pack goes where exactly on the car, and how many of them are there?
It's on the lower right-hand side, beside the driver, and there's that one battery pack there.
So all of the power you harvest then, as you say, is just sitting in there, is it, in that one pack?
This is the batteries, yeah, and under braking, the energy goes through here, and is harvested in here. And if you then use it, it comes the other way around. So the motor gives 80 horsepower more to the engine. And Andy Cowell and his team did a fantastic job because it's very light, it's very compact, and this is the way to go. If this would be 10 kilos heavier, no way we could use it.
Now, Michael, it's sometimes described as brake energy recovery, but it's nothing to do with the brakes at all, is it? It's all to do with this one electric motor that collects and then delivers it back to the engine, I believe.
That's correct. If you look down here on the engine, this is the motor on the front end of the crankshaft. So essentially, when the driver's on the brakes and the engine's still turning, we're using it as a generator to generate the power, which is stored in the battery pack.
And then you pump the energy back, and we can hear it on board sometimes. You can hear the motor revs rising. And so how often can you collect the power and then use it? What are the rules on that?
We're limited by the FIA to 400 kilojoules of total energy storage per lap. We can deploy it either once in one big hit or up to 5 times through a lap.
Okay, so you're limited on the total amount of energy you're allowed to store in the car.
That's correct, yeah.
Good stuff. Well, it's made for some interesting racing, especially down to the first corner. We'll see how Kurz develops in the world of Formula One.
And we'll also see whether Kurz develops to such a point that Brawn get their hands on it, because they could do with that bit of kit, couldn't they?
Yeah, well, Jensen's saying I need more developments to maintain my World Championship charge, and those 3 little pieces bolted on, it's not as simple as that, and all the wiring that goes with it, but I suspect he's going to need that later on in the year as they keep developing the cars and the systems, and that would be very handy for them, because it's not really giving them extra lap time, but it's really strategic, isn't it? It's helping them down to the first corner on the long straight, and you know, of course that's the Mercedes-Benz one. He's got the Mercedes-Benz engine, but at the moment they don't have that pack. Can they afford that pack? Can they bring in that technology at Brawn?
I know you're not a fan, Eddie, but it has spiced up the racing somewhat, hasn't it?
Well, it has, but if I was Ross Brawn, and I will probably look into his mind here, there's not a chance that he will put it out on his car this year. He's got a fabulous product, nimble, nice, well-balanced car. He's got 2 fabulous drivers, and if he wants to win a championship, he is not going to bring in the possibility of unreliability, particularly when you can't test it, or test it as how he would like to test it.
And DC, Jake has emailed in, not me, to the F1 forum to ask if you were still driving, would you have had the Kurz fitted to your car or not? Would you have liked the Kurz? I know it's a kind of system that you would like if you've got it, but if you haven't, it must be so frustrating.
Yeah, I think that it's creating a kind of false sensation of racing right now, because some teams have it and some don't. I agree with Martin that if everyone has it, then it'll just be deployed absolutely at the same time, and then you have the stalemate. But I think that the actual system itself, I don't necessarily agree with Eddie saying that you wouldn't want to introduce that during the season, because we can run on Friday. You can test the system. That's exactly when you would do that. Now, the parts are manufactured by Mercedes. They're reliable already. So it's just a question of packaging it on the I think they said on the right-hand side of the McLaren car. What's interesting with their battery pack is that it is external from the main fuel cell, because I know that some of the other teams, their cars' battery packs are actually mounted below the fuel cell. So when they run it, they reduce their fuel capacity. When they take it out for whatever reason, they have to put a different fuel cell in the car. So simplistically looking at it, I don't see it as such a big risk for them to try and introduce it during the year. I agree with Martin that to win the championship as things develop, you can't afford to be losing a strategic play like that, because in certain circuits it's just going to give you the advantage. But the car is too heavy at the moment, and that's the reason why they don't have that. As we look inside the Brawn debrief area here,
yeah,
I'm not sure if we can see Jock Clear standing up there in the top right of the corner. Rubens Barrichello obviously talking to his engineer about how he can find a bit of pace in the next race. But interesting that Jensen not in there at the moment. He's probably celebrating somewhere in the
Well,
back
Eddie,
of the
they might
garage.
not have Kurz, but it tells you something about them, that they're poring over the results of today's race. They've got all the guys working hard, and they've just won a race here.
Well, they've been looking and analysing how they themselves can go better. They're highly relieved that the car didn't run hot. We all know the disadvantage of when a car is too hot, you lose automatic horsepower, but they actually look really strong, and this will always be, in my view, probably the hottest race of the season. So I think going into Europe, they're not going to envisage that kind of problems. I think they're looking very good, very strong, and keep it simple, guys. Keep it on the road, keep it reliable, and keep those 2 drivers at the front. And my guess is let the winter testing look after the cars if that's what you want, but keep it simple.
What we saw going on in that office, in my experience, is one of the most boring aspects of being a Grand Prix driver. You love driving racing cars, but that's like doing an A-level exam in there for an hour or so, isn't it? And just downloading it when you want to get out and celebrate. It's that sort of trudge that in the end makes you want to stop being a Grand Prix driver like Michael Schumacher. You get tired, not of driving the racing car, but of the media, of the PR work, and that kind of technical homework that's a bit of a slog, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. And I think it was interesting when we watched your interview with Lewis at the top of the show. He was talking about he doesn't want to not be able to walk into a chip shop. He doesn't want to be questioned by the media as to why the performance isn't good. He just wants to drive. But you simply can't just have the driving. The reason the sport has the investment it does, and the reason why the drivers are rewarded as highly as they are, is because they're marketing tools. And you have to take both sides of the story. And we've seen Jensen, who just ran past there, so maybe we'll be able to get a view of him in there with his engineers debriefing. But we've seen him take the pain over the last 2 years of not having performance. And now he's reaping the rewards of all that hard work. And so just out of camera shot there, he's getting a round of applause from his engineers.
I can actually see him. He's just putting on his headphones now, I think. And
that's great. It's a great thing to see.
Why do they do it in headphones, David?
Well, normally the headsets is for when you're in the noisy circuits, you're placed in the back of the garage. So when you have support races or you have the engines being started, you just can't hear. Obviously, this position where we are at the back of the Braun Hospitality, they're in a soundproof room there, but the reason they're on the headsets is back at base, back in Brackley, there'll be people in the operation room who've been active during the Grand Prix, will be listening to this debrief. So what they discuss tonight will be actioned. So when the guys come in tomorrow morning, before this team have packed up and headed home, they'll be working on the next developments, and they'll know firsthand via the link tonight to the factory what Rubens and Jensen need to make this car go faster.
Listen, no wonder you've had enough. All of that sitting in there for hours, chatting about stats and things. Listen, before we disappear, let's quickly confirm the result from today. And of course, KERS or no KERS, it's all that hard work that we've just seen Braun putting in that really is making the difference for them so far this season. Driver of the day from you, Martin. We've heard from the other guys earlier on.
I think it's got to be Jensen, hasn't it? Good performances by Vettel. Truly didn't deliver enough in the race, but solid. Lewis Hamilton, good job again, but Jensen, he's so smooth behind the wheel, and it was a supreme performance.
As we head to Europe, Eddie, who needs to up their game in Formula One?
Upping games. God, there's a lot of teams need to up their games, none more so than the BMW. They look lost. The body language is poor. The drivers are slagging off the team. They are the team in crisis at the moment, not Ferrari. Ferrari have dug themselves momentarily, even small quantity today.
Are you ready for Europe, DC?
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I've really enjoyed these first 4 races of the season. An incredible start to the year. Again, we're still trying to work out who has the ultimate pace to carry this championship through. But with 4 races, we can see there Jenson Button very much at the head of the Drivers' Championship. And he probably can't believe his luck. You know, he's stuck with the failing Honda. It's become Braun, and he would never have believed to have had such a solid lead in the championship as we head back to Europe.
Well, Jensen will stay top even after our race in Spain, and Braun GP will also stay up there for a while. Look at that, almost double the points of Red Bull. And I think a little congratulations to Ferrari down there, 9th in the Constructors' Championship, but hey, they've got their hands on some points this weekend, so well done to them. Just to remind you that you can see the highlights this evening, BBC 3 from 7 p.m. for all the highlights of today's race. Thank you very much for getting in touch on the old mobile phone and dropping in your emails to us here on the F1 Forum. Keep them coming all week, f1@bbc.co.uk. Gentlemen, thank you all very much for these rather hectic first 5 weeks. It's not like this for the whole season, is it, Martin?
I hope so.
Well, we all hope so. Listen, thank you very much. And as we now head to Europe, we can certainly see the brand new pecking order in Formula One. It's become very clear indeed. See you soon.